Hello, hello. It is Friday. It is another Ask Me Anything session here at Experience Investigators. I'm Jeannie Walters, founder and CEO of Experience Investigators, and I am so thrilled that you're here with us today. We are diving into AI today in the ways that it will impact customer experience and customer experience strategy. So we're really glad that you're here. I have Paige from our team. Paige, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. We are having some very summer weather in Chicago for June. We're having hot and humid and 90s and
90s. Woo.
I
In
know
Chicago, that's really turning it up.
it's really turning it up. And my doggy gets his walk earlier in the morning and later in the evening now because at around 1 or 2 when I usually walk him, not so good.
That's
Not so good.
I'm running into the same thing here in Kansas City. We normally do like our afternoon walks, after lunch, kind of walk
Yeah,
it out a little bit. Nope, it is just too hot for the
I
old doggo.
know.
So,
It's
more,
impacting a lot of the US right now. So
yeah,
as you join us, feel free to let us know how it is where you are and where you are. We always love hearing that. We often hear from folks all over the globe too. Let us know what the weather's like wherever you are.
yeah,
And but we've got a fun and kind of scary topic at the same time.
for sure.
But as always, if people have questions, they can drop in and we will answer as we go, or at the end, we'll make sure to address as many questions as we can for this topic. But it's a summer Friday. So I hope some of you are watching this with like a drink in hand on a boat or something fun at the beach, maybe at the beach.
That's where we should host our next one
That's
is
a great idea.
on a
Yeah.
on a boat.
And for those of you who do follow us, we will skip July and be see you again in August. So we'll talk about that at the end. But anyway, we're glad you're here. And why don't we go ahead and get started?
Sounds great.
All right. See you soon, Paige. All right. So today we are talking about how to develop your AI strategy as a customer experience leader, even if you're not ready. And the reason I added that is because I hear from leaders everywhere who say, we know AI is a big thing. We know we should be doing something. We know that all of these things happen, but we're not really sure what to do. Or our data's not in the right place, or we have leaders who really want to push forward, but we're nervous about the consequences to how we're responding to customers and data privacy and all these big issues. So I am going to go ahead and give myself a big disclaimer that I am not an AI expert, but I wanted to at least give you some ideas and tools to move forward as a customer experience leader, because this is not going away. This is something that will be part of our world for a long time. And as customer experience leaders, our job is to stand up for our customers and make sure we're advocating for them. And when it comes to AI, we have to do some of that as well. So, for those of you I don't know, my name is Jeannie Walters. I am founder and CEO of Experience Investigators. I have been in the customer experience world for more than 20 years. That's probably an even higher number. I've been saying that for a few years. So I'm probably more like pushing 25. But anyway, we are dedicated to one mission, which is to create fewer ruined days for customers. You being here with us, we want to empower you to have the tools and the education and the resources to do this as well. If you are interested, I have several LinkedIn learning courses you can check out. We have tons of resources for you in our learning center at experienceinvestigators.com. And if you missed a past webinar like this, all of our LinkedIn Lives and several other videos are available for you at our YouTube channel. You can find that at bit.ly/Jeannie YT for YouTube. So let's jump in. So artificial intelligence is here, right? We are seeing it in our daily lives, whether we know we're seeing it or not sometimes. We are interacting with AI on a regular basis. This is unavoidable and it's evolving rapidly. The last, I would say, year and a half to 2 years has been exceptional in the speed of how fast things are happening because of the advances with generative and conversational AI. AI has been around for more than I think it's close to 40 years technically. This has been something that we have been using in the background. We've been experimenting, people have been developing, but we haven't really seen it in our daily lives like we have in the past 1.5 to 2 years. So, as customer experience leaders, our responsibility is to learn how we can apply AI to transform our customer experience. But we also have to understand that this means testing. We have to test AI's limits, see what it's good at doing, and find out where it falls short. And for those of you following the news on this, recently, some of the big names out there have had some missteps. They have had AI report things that are absolutely untrue. Sometimes those are called hallucinations. There's a big conversation right now about if that's the right name for that. But AI is not perfect, and it's not something that we can just flip a switch and go for. We have to be involved in making sure that we are setting the right guardrails around it, we are testing it, and at the same time, we are leveraging the power of it to transform our customer experiences. So, first of all, let's get some definitions out there. Artificial intelligence is really a big, huge category. It's the ability of machines to exhibit human like intelligence. Now, several years ago, IBM made a big splash with their Watson AI, and Watson was able to play chess against human players and win. Watson went on Jeopardy and answered questions. So, there are all sorts of things that are really kind of interesting about how that's done, but it involves several different areas, including machine learning, where a machine learns based on the inputs that it's given and putting the connections together just like a human would. I shouldn't say just like, similarly to how a human would. There are neural networks and natural language processing. So, if you've ever been involved with computers and coding and things like that, you have to do that very specifically so that the computer understands you. You have to make sure that you type in the command in a certain way. Well, now with natural language processing, that's where we get our smart speakers, right? And that's why we can say, "Hey, you know her name. I'm not going to say her name so I don't turn on all the smart speakers out there, but we can say, "Hey, what is the weather today?" Instead of saying it in a very specific way. That's that natural language processing. So, what happens is this enables programs to analyze data sets, recognize patterns, and deliver outputs we can understand as well. So, AI is not new. The concept has been around for a long, long time. But now, what's happening is that modern AI is light speeds faster and more capable than ever before. And it's just more skilled. It's more skilled at understanding us. It's more skilled at presenting information so that we can also understand. And generative AI builds on this traditional idea and the whole power of AI to really deliver outputs in a whole bunch of different forms. Generative AI actually generates things like it can not only generate text, but it can generate imagery, it can even generate videos. And some of that is really getting concern, as it should, because we're starting to see those deep fake videos and things like that. But what we want to do is think about how can we leverage the power of generative AI to really help us with things like what it excels at, pattern recognition, generating outputs from source material, creating summaries, transcripts, analyses, and more that in the past have always required a human to really kind of go through and do some of that very detailed and repetitive task to get to the output we want. But here's the kicker, right? AI needs a human touch. It helps us do things more faster and more accurately. It can help us do this, but we want to think of AI as a powerful tool, and it can free up time for both us and others so we can focus on what matters. And ideally, we want organizations to think about how can we create new jobs, support different areas, thanks to what AI can save us, thanks to those time savings and everything and resource savings. We want to invest in the people who not only are interacting with the AI, but helping us understand what are its limits, what are the guardrails here that we have to put on, because humans are nuanced and emotional, and we don't always follow logic in the same way that a machine would. And so we need humans to be a part of the development of this wherever we are. So here are the things I think are most important for CX leaders to understand and have at least a basic strategy around. One is strategic AI investment. Where do we think AI will help us the most? And I have talked to a lot of different CX leaders about this. If you are feeling behind right now, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. You are not. Everybody is feeling that way. Every single CX leader I'm talking to recently says, I know we can do more here. I just don't know what to do. And so, thinking about strategy first and how to leverage AI, that is where I would recommend you really think about those investments. We want to build intelligent experience machines. This requires humanity. This requires empathy. This requires all the same ways that we would want to train a human to deliver these things. We want to include that in both the training and building of these machines. And then we want to balance self service and human interaction. The good news, in some ways, is customers are telling us they want more DIY. They want more self service options. They want the ability to solve things by themselves when they have an issue instead of waiting on hold or waiting for a contact center to open or those types of things. So, a lot of this is good because human expectations and customer expectations are actually leaning into some of these tools. But we still have to make sure we're balancing the choice and the options that customers have. So let's dig into this a little bit more. Strategic AI investments. Most organizations see the potential right now of how AI can enhance efficiency and streamline operations. We're focusing on providing customers that round the clock support that they want and speeding up issue resolution and tailored recommendations. This all comes back to what we talk about with customer experience all the time. We need to build a business case. We can't just say, we want to bring AI into our contact center. We want to bring AI into our self service options. We have to build that business case. What will that do for both the customer and the organization? And what are the things that we have to be aware of? So, for example, if we are talking about the contact center, I have I have a slightly different angle on some of these things because when you see really great customer support agents, they are like magic, right? They are solving customer problems in real time. They are providing empathy and support for that customer. They are saving the customer relationship and possibly creating more loyalty long term because the data tells us that if we solve a customer's problem well, that actually can increase loyalty long term. So they're doing all of these things because they have that empathy within them. They understand how to show that to the customer in the right way and kind of match their energy. And so when we think about what's happening in contact centers, we don't want to lose that. But what happens is if we're using all that wonderful magic of a human to answer questions like when are your operating hours, or I need to change my address on, in your database, or those things that are a little more repetitive that require less empathy, those are the things that we can see being shifted off into AI, things that can really understand quickly, understand how to execute quickly, make the appropriate updates, all of those things. The one thing I want you to think about as a customer experience leader, two things I want you to think about in that scenario. Improving efficiency is so important, and AI can really help us do this. It can help us take those repetitive tasks off the humans who then are available for those more nuanced situations. We want to think about customers who simply need more. There are customers who maybe have different needs, different abilities, different language barriers, all of those things. AI might be able to address some of those things naturally. Some of those things they might not. There's also a trust issue here. People need to trust that things are going to happen. So if you are using AI and machine learning and chatbots and all the different things available to help customers, we need to reassure customers throughout that process. This is where journey mapping and micro mapping can be very, very effective because we want to look at Where are those moments where somebody says, yes, change my address, and the bot says, got it? Is that enough? Do I feel like I'm confident that it was handled in the right way? Or do we need to follow up and say, thank you for changing your address? This is what happened. Oh, and if it wasn't you, here's what you do. So, really thinking about those points of confidence building and reassurance for the customer. The other thing we need to think about here, and this is something I don't think people are talking about enough. We have these amazing contact center people, these amazing customer support individuals, and sometimes throughout the day, they do have a lot of those repetitive tasks and things like that. And then they get one or two kind of, the doozies, the things that take a lot of time and effort and nuance. Well, if we shove all of the really hard stuff off to our individual people and we expect them to work the same hours in the same way and deliver the same things, we are setting them and us up for failure. And this is because we are humans, we have limits. Empathy is a finite resource. If we have people who are taking on just those hard, challenging situations with customers where they have to really have that empathy, be with them, figure out complex situations, maybe, start the conversation from a very negative place because customers are already frustrated. If they're doing that all day, every day, that takes a toll on a person. And so we need to start thinking about the role a little differently and thinking about how can we provide the support we need for the agents, for the people who are delivering on this. Because if they don't have the emotional and mental break of simply saying, yeah, of course I can change your address. Let me do that for you. Thank you very much. You're so welcome. Those things that make them feel good, but don't take a lot of mental and emotional toll, then we need to think about how can we support the humans who are involved as well. So thinking about, mental health breaks and training about how to take care of one another and training on when to walk away, when to actually ask for help. All of those things will be more and more important moving forward. This is a bigger conversation, but I just hope that we're thinking about the people who will be providing the services that we need for customers while AI handles a lot of those easier, repetitive things that maybe don't take as much mental energy, but also provide that nice reward for people who hear, thank you, and this was helpful. So, a bigger conversation, but journey mapping and micro mapping in both the customer experience and the employee experience can be very, very helpful there. Okay, we want to build intelligent experience machines. So, of course we do, right? So, when we talk about this, we need to make sure that we are developing intelligent ways to collect, react, and use the right data at the right times. Right now, we have a bigger conversation happening, as we should, around data protection and privacy. We have all seen the breaches, we have all seen what happens. And so we want to make sure that when we are talking about things like training these AI models with the things that customers have shared with us, we have to really make sure that we're doing that in a way that is respecting privacy, that is making sure that we are kind of following the rules of the road around that. And let's be transparent with our customers. Let's tell them what we're doing and how we're doing it. Give them some control over their data and their privacy. That will I see a world where we have dashboards where customers can go in and really understand, how are you using my data? What control do I have? What can I opt in and out of? And what will that mean to me? Because customers are willing to provide their private data. I shouldn't say private data, but they're willing for their data to be used to make experiences that are more convenient and personalized for them. We can do that. We can do that very well with AI. So we want the right data combined with the right intelligence, with the right transparency as well, to be that backbone of delivering personalization at scale and really transforming the customer journey. So there are lots of different ways to think about this, but as a CX leader, what I want you all to do is think about what is important to our customers and what can we do that is transparent and authentic and honest with them. And sometimes that means sharing, this is how we expect your data to be used. This is what you get for it. This is why we want to do it. People will be willing to do that if we start communicating in a more transparent way with them. We also want to make sure that the models are being trained like we would train a human. So we want to make sure that we are figuring out how can this be more empathetic? How can we make sure that if the model gets stuck, if something happens and it doesn't know the answer, it says that and directs somebody to where they can get that answer. Those sticky situations that we train people on, we have to make sure that the model is reacting to that too. And then we want to balance self service and human interaction. AI personalizes the customer experience by creating proactive offers and predicting those needs. And that's why we get the hey, you bought those shoes last year. How about these for this year? Because these would, be something that's appealing to you. Like we know so much about our customers now. But we also want to seamlessly connect customers with what they need and want through their preferred channels. This is all about customer choice. If you have followed me at all, you know this is really important. I think that we sometimes speak inside our organizations around concepts like, well, our digital customers or our store customers, that is the same person. It's more about context of the situation, where somebody is in that moment, where they are on their journey, and their specific needs. Sometimes we're going to want that app, we're going to want that self service. Sometimes we want somebody to walk us through that. So, this is where we really need to unify data across our channels and systems. And I will also say here, this is where I'm seeing a lot of the hardest limits. If your data is not set up this way, if you don't have that centralized customer data, it can be very difficult for AI to really deliver a personalized experience for the customer. So we have to be really aware of that. And if you can't get there, what can you do? So, for example, there are organizations right now that have chatbots that are not connected to the rest of the customer journey. And so people can ask questions, but then they get frustrated and they don't get what they need. So they pick up the phone and they call the contact center, and the agent has no idea that they've just gone through that chatbot experience because the data on the back end is not connected. So, what does that mean? Well, that means we have to train the agents differently. We have to think about what can we at least give them visibility into in the right moment. And if we can't do that, what is the language we need to give them to help empathize with the customer and understand where they are on their journey? So, some of this right now today is about workarounds. It's about figuring out, okay, we're not there yet. What can we do? And that's so important in any situation in customer experience. So, these are a few of the ways that we're seeing AI is shaping the customer journey: hyper personalization, streamlined interactions with chatbots, and predictive analytics and sentiment analysis. So, hyper personalization is this idea that, sometimes we talk about personalization as if it's enough to say somebody's name, right? Oh, we personalize everything. Every email they get says, Dear Jeannie. Well, that's great, but we all know what that is. It's automation, it's easy to do. People don't see it as that personalized experience as much anymore. So we really need to get into their unique preferences and understand our customers in that way. And AI can help us do this. AI can analyze individual purchase history, browsing behavior, social media activity to craft experiences that really feel one to one. And that's where, again, we have to be careful. We have to make sure we're being transparent about how we're using that data. And we want to walk that line between personalized or creepy, right? when you have that conversation in your living room about, wouldn't it be fun to kayak down the river, and then you go on your phone and suddenly there's an ad for a kayak and it makes you go, whoa, right? We want to be very careful about how we're presenting that information, how we're guiding somebody through the journey. But once you do this, once you really see somebody and they feel seen and they feel like you're providing their best interest in the journey, then that can lead to a lot of loyalty. Retailers are really experiencing this right now. They're experimenting with this, and car dealers, car brands are doing this. So, really thinking about what can we do. Hospitality has been doing this for a while. I think they have a little ways to go, but they're getting better as well. So they're feeling the loyalty of people because they're able to say, "Hey, I know that, when Jeannie comes into my hotel, she's fine getting the mobile key and checking in without talking to a person. Somebody else might really need to go to that front desk. I also know where the room should be, what kind of room should be there. If we provide snacks, what kind of snacks? That's the level we're getting to with some of this personalization. Streamlined interactions with chatbots. They provide timely information, very timely, which is helpful, guiding customers through their journey, and then we also are going to improve response times because AI can go out and find the answer a lot faster than a human can because it's all right there in the neural network. So this can really enhance the customer experience and it can reduce those operational costs. This is where we get into, will some jobs shift? Absolutely, they will. And that is part of this conversation. So we need to be prepared to understand what are the jobs that we still need? How can we upskill and reskill people to work with AI in a more powerful way? What if we could serve more people? Right now, when we look at things like customer and contact center stats, some of the stats are about how long people wait, right? When are those busy times? What if we could use AI to reduce wait time and to make sure we serve more people? That sometimes means not getting rid of anybody who is a human answering those questions. It means shifting who is getting attention from those AI options and who is getting attention from people. So let's be creative here. Let's think about how can we make the most of the people who are so well trained and you know doing such good work for us, and the AI and the machine learning to help them do what they do best. And then we also want to think about, AI is so good at understanding patterns and seeking out patterns. This is a great way to really lean into it. Predictive analytics and sentiment analysis. We've talked about these concepts for a long time and they've been out there, but now AI algorithms can do this with vast amounts of data. So this means that instead of an individual maybe deciding even what is the hypothesis I need to come up with to test, AI can say, "Hey, we're noticing a pattern that you might not see yet in your data." AI can give us signals for things that are shifting earlier than we might notice just by reviewing the data. We also want to identify those patterns, trends, anticipate the needs, tailor our offerings. One of the interesting things that we've talked about on CX Pulse Check, which is the monthly episode of our podcast Experience Action, where we talk about things in the news and, customer experience examples. Uh, One of the things we talked about was how McDonald's, the fast food giant, they actually purchased a company, a technology company, to help them with AI in the drive-through. And what that does is the AI actually looks for patterns around weather, around what people are ordering in that region, around speed to order, all of those things. So the digital display and the offerings can actually change based on what AI shows us more people will be interested in. We're getting to the point where when you go up in your car for the drive-through, we're getting to the point where something's going to recognize you and say, "Hey, you've been here before. Didn't you get the McFlurry last time? Or can I get you that coffee?" So, really thinking through how can we expand personalization in ways that use the data in faster and broader ways. AI can really help us do this. And so, thinking about things that maybe are outside our customer data, things like, I just talked about the weather can have an impact on things. Language, how can we make sure we meet people where they are with different languages? AI can help us with that. So there are all sorts of things around this where if we ask the right questions, AI can really help us get those answers. And then the next phase of this is AI will help us develop the right questions. So there is lots of potential here, and I think we're just at the cusp of it. But if you are struggling with getting through your data, there are so many AI options. Many of the tools and platforms out there have AI features now. What I hear from customer experience leaders is That sounds great, but we're on a system that's, not quite connected to that, or we're not on that version yet, or all of those things. That's okay. What I want you to do is think about the strategy of when you get there. What is most important to you? What is most important to your organization? And what is most important to your customers? And then you can really lean into where AI can help you the most. So, where can AI improve the experience? Well, this is about having a clear purpose and measurable goal. So, some of the questions to ask: what do you intend AI to accomplish? Start there. How can you measure its success compared to before using it? And where are some fairly safe places to test before you take on bigger tasks? So, some examples: audio transcription is a great one. If you have needs around that, AI can do that right away. It can help you repurpose that content, maybe highlight things to improve for next time. There's all sorts of things there. Brand monitoring, monitor for your brand mentions and conversations across social media and online communities. It's a great way to listen for that untold customer feedback. And that's where you might want to lean into that sentiment analysis as well. And then create support content. So maybe we're not ready because we need to test. We need to make sure it's all there to share AI directly with our customers. But what if we share it with the people who serve our customers? What if we have tools that make things easier for them? So, aggregating all the knowledge base information you have, all of your customer support content, how to resources, all the things that we ask people to learn. If AI could bring that all together in context, that way, instead of digging through trying to find the right information, somebody can just say, this is a customer question, and it can pull up the appropriate information and content. There are so many ways to experiment here. And then within your own voice of the customer programs, and depending on the tools that you're using, there are several different ways AI can really help you get better results around that as well. So, at this point, I want you to think about how to transform your employee and customer experiences with AI, but really think about that connection between the automation and the machine learning and all the amazing things it does with human ingenuity and human creativity. How can we lean on one another to really create these customer experiences? This is a paradigm shift. We are in the middle of a really exciting point in history, but we're in the middle of it. And that means that it's messy and we haven't quite figured it all out, and it will continue to evolve. I think we're going to see things like some lawsuits coming out. I think we're going to see some legislation that might, shift things as well. We have to be aware of all those factors as we build within our own organizations. But when we do this well, we're providing more personalized experiences at scale. We're helping our employees in the best possible way we can. We are connecting data that maybe wasn't connected before. So there is tons of potential here. We need to be smart about our strategy, and we can't just say, well, let's just use AI for that. Let's figure out exactly what that looks like and make sure we're testing and being as transparent as we can be with our customers as well. So I'm going to take a breath. This is a big, huge topic. I see we've got a lot of people chatting there. So, do we have questions?
We do have a couple. We've been having some great conversation over here about many different things. But first question up here is, how can we measure the effectiveness of AI in improving customer experiences?
Great question. Big question. Yeah, this is kind of like anything else. Sometimes when I work with customer experience leaders, the first thing they want to share are their metrics, right? And we get very excited about metrics. Excuse me. Uh, and they want to tell me about their net promoter score or the way that they were able to address one issue and close the loop with the customer. And all of that is part of customer experience. But we need to take that a level up and talk about strategy. What are we actually trying to do here? What are our goals? What is the plan? How do we know if we're successful? And so much of the work we do with customer experience teams is around customer experience strategy, because we often just skip that and go into tactics. The same thing is happening with the AI. So, what I would encourage you to do is think about something like, for instance, if we had a tool that we knew could help our contact center agents find the information they wanted faster, we would want to look at how are we measuring how they're doing on that today. Well, maybe that's time on call, could be. Maybe that is the transactional survey at the end and tracking customer feedback that way. Maybe it's first call resolution. Maybe it's a combination of those things. So, whatever you're tracking to really distinguish, are we doing this in a fast enough way for the customer? If that's the goal of providing the knowledge base and the support and all that AI can do, that would be a great thing to track. But we have to make sure we understand what is the goal of what we're doing, how are we rolling that out, and how will we measure success before we just say, let's improve customer experiences with AI. That's that's the disconnect I'm seeing, and that's what I wanted to talk about today, because if we just jump in and we just say, "Well, use AI for everything," you know, that's not gonna be great. We're not going to get the results we want, and there's a lot of investment in this. This is not something that you can just bolt on and hope for the best. The investment could be around, you know what? We're not ready for turning on the AI of our customer relationship manager or our customer data platform because our data isn't connected yet. We don't have it set up in the right way. That's where we really need to make sure that we are set up for success. We know what the purpose is and we know what we're trying to do. Because then we can make a business case. We can say, hey, our data is not set up the right way for this. What we suggest is investing in making sure our data is set up correctly because we know there's a long term payoff here. We know all the different ways that AI can support that by leveraging the data that we have. So, we again have to make a business case. We have to take that step back, understand the strategy, understand how to measure that, and then come up with, what is the return on investment for our organization? That's the case we want to make. And none of this is as easy as I'm making it sound right now, I know. But if you need help on business cases, I always recommend look at our customer experience success strategy statement because that can really help you think through it as far as the organizational goals, your leadership goals, what does success look like, all of those things.
That's exactly what I was about to chime in with. Like, we've seen the other side of it when people didn't really think that through. They thought they had thought it through. And then you dive into it and realize, oh my gosh, this is way more nuanced than I thought.
Mhm.
Now we're in over our heads. We've got all this data. We don't know where to start. And as you said, they've put in that investment. So then you
Mhm.
still have to backtrack. So if you
Yep.
skip that crucial step of really thinking it all through, you can get into hot water even with the best of intentions.
It's very, very, very true. Yep. Yep.
Another question we have: what should CX leaders prioritize when starting their AI adoption journey?
It's almost the same answer, right? Like prioritize strategy, prioritize what will make the biggest impact. So we talked a little bit about how it's important to kind of experiment with those safe options. And that means really looking at what this reminds me actually of the priority matrix that we've introduced too, especially after journey mapping. What will have the most impact? What is most feasible? So, for example, we might want to, take all the data from everywhere and create these amazing personalized experiences for our customers. That might not be the first step. The first step might be, how can we um, improve the experience that our customers are having with the chatbot that already exists? What can we do to make sure that when, that we're incorporating the data in the right place so that we know where a customer is on their journey every step of the way. There's no disconnect there. So I would think about what will have the most impact on your organizational goals. So we start there because everything can feel like a priority in customer experience. We want the best experience for our customers. Sometimes that means we have to make trade offs because our organization needs to succeed. And so if you have an organizational mandate, for instance, right now in today's world, I'm hearing a lot about We need to keep our costs down. We need to make sure our expenses come down. If that is what you're trying to do, look for those operational places where you can provide more efficiency and then make a business case for that and really walk through if we are able to serve more customers with self service options. That means we will reduce service cost overall. So maybe there's an upfront investment in designing these things and in connecting the data and the AI, but then you're going to see that payoff in lower expenses. So start with what is important to your organization, figure out how can you have the most impact there, and then really again make that business case for it, and then figure out before you start, how will you measure success? And that's what you really want to look at to make sure that you are prioritizing the right things. And if you're not seeing the success, that's the decision point. That's where you say either we've got more work to do, we've got to figure this out, or you say, you know what, this isn't the right place. Let's try something else. So it's really about that strategic vision that you have for both your customer journey and your organizational outcomes. And the prioritization matrix, I believe, is in our journey mapping workshop. That's one way to think about it as well.
I think you touched on a really great point there too, that part of this, especially with AI, as it's new and it's changing and it's constantly evolving, it's okay to try something. And if it doesn't work, change. It's okay
Yep,
to be flexible and don't think it's progress, not perfection, right? Like we're
that's
just
right.
going to keep trying things. And
Mhm,
as long as you have a vision and you've thought it out and it's aligned with your organizational goals,
mhm.
it will in the end get you where you want to be.
And I think with this particular subject, we do have to make sure that we are being transparent, and I think that's what customers want as well. Like, we've all had the experience where you start a chat and you think you're talking to a human, and then you get, like, 4 sentences in, and you go, "Wait, this isn't what I thought," right? We have to really be transparent with our customers. I've seen some creative things right now where, um, they're inviting customers to be part of the experimentation, right? Like, be part of our beta, be part of this. We're experimenting with this. Do you want to be a part of this or not? That's great too. Give customer options and just give them ways to know how we're rolling these things out.
Yeah, talk about voice of the customer. Tell
Yeah,
us,
there
help
you
us
go.
build.
Yeah,
Another
exactly.
question we have here is how can we balance AI adoption with protecting customer trust and data privacy?
Great question. So, for those of you who are subscribed to our newsletter, The Weekly Win, I just wrote about cybersecurity and how important it is to really think about data protection and privacy for customers last week, and we actually got a great response in the form of a question for the podcast. So, if you have not subscribed to Experience Action, I'll be answering that next week. But the whole idea here again is we need to make sure, and this is what's so challenging, right? Customer experience touches everything, and yet we're not responsible for everything. We are not the cybersecurity gurus. We are not the people who are responsible necessarily for data protection. But we are the ones who have to deal with the consequence. We are the ones who have to at least advocate for this idea of transparency around telling customers this is what's happening. Either this is how we will use your data unless you opt out in these ways. This is what has happened to your data, and this is what we're doing about it. Um, we're living in a world where this is becoming more and more common, and so I think the most important thing for us to balance is to make sure we are having these conversations with the right people in our organization. So if you are not connected to your cyber security, your chief information security officer team, then I would say find ways to have those conversations. I would also ask for us to be proactive. Have a crisis management plan. Have something in place that you can turn on if something happens with data privacy. And then on top of that, when you're talking about connecting all of these pieces of data to provide a more personalized experience, I think we have a ways to go in making sure that we are giving customers easy and understandable ways to manage their own data. And again, we have a ways to go on this, but I think AI can help us with scaling this as well because there's just a lot of misunderstanding out there. And part of that is because we put too much in the fine print. We don't say to customers, this is what's happening. This is how we're using your data. And when we say your data, this is what we mean. Because some people think, oh, I trust them, no problem. And that's because we're conditioned to scroll through the terms and conditions and click yes, even if we haven't read it. How can we make things simpler, more understandable, more concise, and just easier for customers? That's a bigger conversation too. But I think that's part of this whole conversation around balancing data privacy and protection as well as AI and how we can work together to collaborate the best ways to optimize that.
Absolutely. That's all the questions we have coming through the chat today on this slow, sleepy summer Friday. So I'll let you take over again and tell us a
Sure.
little bit about Flight School and all of our great offerings.
Awesome. Thanks, Paige. And yes, thank you everybody for being here. This is a big, big, big topic. I understand that we just hit the tip of the iceberg here, but I hope that this helps you with understanding and thinking through some of the ways that we as CX leaders can really advocate for our customers in the best way and also help our organizations get the most out of these amazing tools that are now available. So if this interested you, we have my latest course on LinkedIn Learning is CX Trends. I encourage you to check that out. Also, let me know what other trends you see, what you want me to cover next. That's always interesting too. So feel free to check that out. And some exciting news, I'm filming some more LinkedIn courses. So a few that are going to be coming out probably later this year. So thanks for all of you who have taken any of those courses. We have, I think, 6 or 7 out there now, and some are in different languages. So lots of fun there. We also have our community, the CXI Ground School. This is both a curriculum, coaching, mentoring, and community for you. We do monthly sessions on different topics. We also help you build your customer experience mission statement and your customer experience success strategy statement. So you go through Ground School, you get those 2 things done, and then we introduce new tools every single month. We have live Q&As. We have almost 100% retention on those folks who have been a part of this so far. I encourage you to check that out. We would love to have you there. And then we have our podcast, and the podcast is me answering your questions. So feel free to leave a message for me at askjeannie.vip. And then once a month, we have CX Pulse Check, which is where I invite a special co host and we talk about what's happening in the world of CX. We've talked about everything. I told you about McDonald's. We've talked about Kanye West. We've talked about Apple recently, all sorts of things. So if you're interested in kind of what's new and what's now, I encourage you to subscribe there. We have all of those on our YouTube channel as well. So if that's your preferred method, you can check it out there as well. Thank you so much for being here. We are all about empowering leaders like you. That is our mission, to make sure that we can all create fewer ruined days for customers, because we really believe that makes a better world. So you being here helps us live that mission. Thank you so much. And instead of a session in July, we're going to see you on August 9th. Did I get that right, Paige? Um, okay, good. So we will see you on August 9th. Go enjoy your summer and let us know. You can always reach out through all of the different ways that we have. But if you have a specific question, I encourage you to leave me that voicemail, and then we'll let you know when we answer it on the podcast. Thank you so much for all you do, and we will see you next time.